It is indeed a pleasure to have this privilege to play here for you. We intend to give you a very fine program, so just settle back, relax, and enjoy the moment.
Good morning. Mic check. Good morning. Welcome to Meeked Up. Yep, Meeked Up. Welcome to Mic'd Up. Hey, D. Good to see you. If you're on Facebook, just say hi. If you don't want to say hi, that's cool too. Hopefully my shout outs on Facebook aren't really making people nervous. Some people like to listen, watch, whatever, incognito. The best way to do that is on Twitch. Like, just don't chat. That just if you ever wanted to watch a little more stealthily, just go to, on Twitch. And just don't chat or comment or subscribe. What up? Good morning. Hey, Megzy. It's good to see you. Good to see you in the chat here on Twitch. All right. So I hinted at this yesterday. I want to talk about, we want to continue the conversation. I'm pulling up the file right now. We want to continue the conversation, and we're going to have this conversation about media. We're going to continue to interrogate media. We're going to continue to, let me switch it up real quick. What's up on Facebook? How you doing? Good morning. Hey, Jennifer. Good morning. Thank you for saying good morning. Okay. Yeah, so sorry, I got a text message, got me distracted. So yeah, we're going to continue to interrogate power here in Charleston. We're going to definitely, did I have a typo? Sometimes I make things so big, I don't see the typo. Okay. But we want to focus on billionaires, local billionaires here in Charleston, that have had a significant influence over everything from education to development, or as we learned a new phrase from Queen Quet, destructionment, right? I love it. I love I love coining phrases. You know that, right? But yeah, the local billionaires have, hey, let's do this. D-Mill 8107. What up, Rugby? Yeah, like I like what and I'm gonna include myself in this. Someone who didn't look too close. Hey, Honor, good to see you. Keep me honest. One thing that even I fell prey to, especially when I relocated here, of course I had a social justice, I guess, ethos or a social justice focus, racial justice focus, all of that, right? Like, I've always had that. But like, hey, what's up? New follower, what's good? What's up, Stephen Bowden? Of course I had that, right? But as you grow and you become more aware, you read more, you're rooting your critiques more in scholarship and study, and not just that, right? Not just in the books, but you're rooting your scholarship in, like, you're having conversations with people across class. You're having more conversations with people, hopefully, across racial lines, right? You're becoming less tribal, more inclusive. And like through that, like, I want to kind of just acknowledge that, hey, we grow. We're not just born with a certain type of political awareness, right? And I'm not going to do too much of this because I don't want to be ever accused of coddling people who should know better. But, I would say that when I came here to Charleston, and 2016 was happening, and all that, Dylan Roof, Walter Scott, Trump really pushed me to, like, hey, I really want to organize. I really want to start to interrogate power a little bit more powerfully, more publicly. But before that, like, I just took things at face value. Like, okay, you a philanthropist, but you a billionaire, right? I did not have a sound class analysis. I would say 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. I did not, right? I didn't question the existence of billionaires. I didn't question, how they were able to mold their own image or what have you, right? Like, mold their own public facing persona. And then what I really discounted was, to be real with you, like, one thing I didn't realize is that how our local media landscape, not everybody, but our local media landscape really didn't hold these billionaires accountable, didn't really write extensively about what these billionaires, what we know where they have their hands in, right? So we already did a live stream dedicated to looking closely at Anita Zucker, her son-in-law, former chief of staff for Tim Scott, also a lobbyist in Qatar, a Jewish lobbyist in Qatar, buying influence, helping the Qataris, wealthy Qatari interests buy influence here, specifically in South Carolina, specifically here in Charleston. Right, we talked about that, and we talked about Ben Navarro. He's not. Both of these people have positioned themselves as philanthropists, and so a lot of people say, "Oh, they're opening schools. Oh, they're opening innovation labs, or oh, her name is on the new aviation building at Trident." No one's really like that, and that's not your fault. Like that, they have money. They are buying influence. They are launching PR campaigns that are kind of they're very indetectable. It's very stealthy. And I think I'm gonna just say this outright. And if you're uncomfortable with this, we need to talk. If you're not comfortable with questioning how a billionaire got their money, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't care if it's Beyonce, Jay-Z, Oprah, Tyler Perry. I don't give a let me not start too early with F-bombs. I don't care. Like, you have to question how these folks make their money and how they move. And but you can't get lulled into that thing that I fell prey to, which is a savvy PR campaign, positioning themselves publicly to be advocates of education, positioning themselves publicly to be women's rights activists. Anita Zucker's gotten that, right? And so all that leads me to look more closely at how they continue to build that influence, how they continue to launch that charm offensive. And they do that. And this is nothing that's exclusive to Charleston. Ben Navarro and Anita Zucker ain't doing nothing slick. Like, they ain't doing nothing new. They ain't reinventing nothing. We've seen this with the Murdoch, with Rupert Murdoch. We've seen this with the Hearst family, right? Right. Other news barons back in the day. That's why I called today's live stream. I entitled it "Citizen Bane." It's a I guess probably not so much an imaginative pun or spin on the movie Citizen Kane, which also has as its main character a man who sets out to report the news, and then his steady downfall and his steady I don't know how you're gonna. If you didn't see Citizen Kane and if you don't like cinema, it's kind of hard to explain. But basically, this descent that the main character falls like this descent that we follow him along this descent, and he becomes more corrupt, and he becomes more driven by this desire to shape and mold opinions, tell people what to think. And I suspect. And I don't think this is a leap. I suspect the same shenanigans are going on here in Charleston. I think it's a matter of time before a billionaire, maybe one of these two featured on the screen right here, maybe somebody else. I think it's just a matter of time before they start really buying entire papers. So we're going to get into that practice of billionaires buying papers. We're going to get into specifically here a new initiative. Shout out to all the education warriors out there who are fighting against school privatization, who are fighting for public education. I should say it like that, fighting for public education, and who sent me, a little something on the post and curl. They like to launch all their nice splashy initiatives. But this new one, Education Lab, it sounds innocuous. It sounds like, oh, okay, that sounds great. They're investing in education. We're going to follow the money. But we're also going to take a larger look at, how other billionaires have bought opinions, have bought the right to shape opinions, right? So I didn't want to look in the chat because I get distracted. Let me go ahead and now look. Good morning, Donna, if you're watching. Debbie, good morning. Hey, Nelson Nicole, if you're watching on Facebook. Shout out over here, Megsy. I already said good morning to you, but good morning again. Debbie, you in both places. I don't know which way you at. El Kuj, good morning. Hey, Jessica. Hey, Brienne. D. Bartlett, good to see you. I said what's up to Honor Marks and D-Mill 8107. Rugby, Megsy, I got that D, gotcha. And CBC 843? Like Trump trying to buy the news network. Absolutely. Right. Trump is trying to be Rupert Murdoch, but he doesn't have thank you for the subscription. Oh, thank you, D, for gifting the subscription. Yeah, exactly that. Trump was trying to, and still trying to, right? It's almost like, if you want to kind of flip it a little bit, it's like, I might lose some of y'all, but like for years, like I would say the early 2000s is when I started reading more about it. For years, Walmart tried to get into the financial services industry, right? Essentially create their own banks. And what they were essentially doing was turning customers, like turning people who had banking needs. They would create these products like, these debit cards or whatever. They tried all these ways to get into banking. They kind of already are successful, I think, right now, especially like this. If you look at this Walmart over here in West Ashley, like, there's a bank there, that shady ass bank, whatever. But they're turning their customer, like they're trying to grab hold of customers, basically take the money that customers get and just, it goes right back into Walmart, right? Some employers even pay, say, hey, get paid early, sign up for, I know Greyhound used to do this, sign up for our debit card. And so you get your pay a little early and it's right there on your debit card. But that debit card, really had like a lot of limitations. But what it did was it kept control of the money. All right. And so, again, I hope I don't lose you. But that's what I see with billionaires. They're trying to, especially Ben Navarro, he started, especially with this credit company being branded on the Meeting Street Academy buses. Ben Navarro is not just, hey, I'm a philanthropist and I care about education. He likes to privatize school because there's dollars in it. There's tremendous money in school privatization. Ask Betsy DeVos, another billionaire heiress. Ask Anita Zucker, right? Right? I got you in the chat. I got you. And he's trying to turn students and parents into customers through his credit stuff, right? And then also, basically, with the paper too, now you start to shape favorable opinions about his company. I don't know if anyone can find a critical piece on Ben Navarro from the Post and Courier. If you can find a critical piece on Ben Navarro from the Post and Courier, please drop it in the chat. Please email it, text it to me if you know me like that. Please, 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 please drop it in the chat. Because I can't find too much. City Paper, I got something for the City Paper from a while ago, not even about Ben Navarro. No, but I if y'all know anything, let me know. Paul wrote some. Okay, cool. I'm sure Paul did. All right, let me read the chat over here. Oh, AJ, you lighting it up over on Facebook. Let me read the Twitch chat real quick. El Kuj says, if you're preying on people the way Navarro does, you got to spend some time and a fraction of that money on cleaning your image. Wait, I got a button for that. Yes. Applause that. Yes. AJ over here on Facebook, you dropped something in the chat. You says, this is a great topic. These folks have learned how to buy social infrastructure services like public education because of their billionaire status and willing to go with it. I will say this. Thank you, AJ. You know what that was, AJ.
Yeah, listen. That's called motherfucking bars.
Motherfucking bars. All right. So thank you, AJ, for that. I will say this too. Let me just tell you this real quick. Like I said, if you want to watch this live stream and not have me shout you out and whatever, if you want to do that, I don't know why people text me. If you want to watch stealthily, if you got interest, look, I'm gonna tell you right now. Let me just give you your excuse slip from school. If you love the local nonprofit scene, if you like in love with it, I'm not saying if you work there. I'm not saying it because we all gotta pay bills and all that. If you work in a nonprofit industrial complex here in Charleston and you feel uncomfortable about me interrogating how they spend their money, how they move their money, go ahead and just just watch it quietly. You might, if you feel uncomfortable, you should. I hope you do. If you work for Coastal, specifically Coastal Community Foundation, if you work for them, don't take this shit personally. This ain't about you. You didn't create this system. You participate in it just like I participate in capitalism, right? Don't internalize this critique as a personal indictment on you and your decision making, right? Any of the nonprofits I criticize, Trident United Way, any of it like anything, don't take that shit personally. Right, we trying to all figure this out. Look, shit, I work for Cypress Fund, which I feel like that's what shit is like a fucking front. I don't even know what it is because they ain't doing, like, I don't know what they do. I don't and so is that an indictment on me? Maybe I could have asked more questions, but I got fired for asking questions. I got fired for lifting up some issues that really were tough for me. So my point is but I never took that shit personally. If someone came to me like, yo, Cypress is shit. Cypress takes a lot of crazy money from all these billionaire interests, and I don't like. If someone said it to me, I'm like, you right. Then I have to make certain choices, yes. But if you feel a way about Coastal, if you feel a way about your homies there, I'm gonna tell you right now, just watch quietly or just log off. But don't take this shit. One thing I get is people get really defensive when I start talking about these big muckety mucks, and I'm like, yo, please make sure you can question me. You can question my motives. Please do. This is what this space is for, right? I am not trying to shape and mold opinions. I am trying to heighten the level of discourse to a large degree. Maybe have some influence or impact, but I'm not trying to tell you what to think. I'm trying to have us all complicate our relationships with these powerful structures and look closely at what their ties are, what they're tied to, right? So you should be doing that too. So if you got that smoke from me, Cash Poor Mika in the studio apartment, expensive studio apartment, but Cash Poor Mika in the studio apartment in West Ashley. If you got smoke for me, make sure you keep that smoke for the billionaire debt collector or the billionaire Qatari lobbyist. Please make sure you keep that smoke. Bring it to the boardroom at the staff meeting. Don't just get spicy in my DMs and emails. Please, if you have a problem with like this, because I get a couple. I don't get a lot. I don't get an onslaught, but I do get the distance. Sometimes the silence is telling too. Well, I'll see. Oh, okay. Oh, you're talk. Okay, I don't know. I don't want to say too much. I get that too. You got to pay bills. You can't piss off. You can't piss off your boss's people. Like you know what I mean? I get it. But miss me with the whole, it's not like that. They really wholesome. Ain't no wholesome $1 million foundation, $1 billion foundation. Ain't no such thing. Ain't no such monster as Miss Gilliard used to tell me in St. Andrews High School English class. Ain't no such monster as a lovable, affable billionaire. All right, let me hit over here in the chat. D-Mill 8107, you said you work for a local TV station. Managers would tell news directors to not run stories for paid advertisers. Wow. I bet you that TV news thing is real too, right? CBC in 843, you said, isn't that why Paul Bowers got fired? Paul, I'm gonna let Paul, I hope he told his story, maybe on his podcast, maybe in his Substack, but Paul could tell his story, what got, I think his critical voice definitely, he didn't have a home at Post and Courier. Paul Bowers, man of integrity. I find someone to be one of the most interesting minds here in Charleston. Definitely challenge power actively. One of the few people that I can point to who were in role trying to dismantle oppression in role, whether it be through his reporting or other things. But I'll let Paul tell his own stories eventually. But good. You ain't off. CBC in 843. Right? Oh, yeah. Donna Marks, you said yes. Yeah, I heard some more stuff too. Yeah. Susanna 20, it's been crickets. It's been crickets on good school board election and privatization since Paul left. It's been what? I love these sound effects. It's been what? It's been crickets. Yes, Susanna, it kind of has. All right. Good morning, Joy. All right, let's get into it. Knowledge is power. Thank you. Knowledge is power. That's why also you have to check your media sources, including this one, because if I say something that's not accurate, like with the Reverend Jeremiah Wright discussion, if I literally didn't know until Little Mama said it. But if I don't know something, don't let me just keep riding because I don't want to because something uncomfortable, like say something. That's why I like the fact that we can use the chat feature here, is that you can keep me honest in real time and you can weigh in. It's really interactive. I'm gonna go back to Facebook real quick. Yeah. Okay. Just checking. Hey, Facebook, how you doing? All right, let's get to it. I talked a lot, first 21 minutes, always 20 minutes. So what I want to do is, you know what? I'm going to, real quick, some of y'all mention this again, and I got to remember sometimes I get newer viewers. Let's just say this, if you're managing your finances much like me, right? I'm patching together certain gigs to make ends meet, right? And y'all have been very supportive of me here on Twitch, y'all have either subscribed to my Patreon or you subscribe to this channel, or all of that. You buy bits, you do everything, you hold me down, you buy t-shirts, all of that. And I appreciate that. But if you prioritize me, like, okay, I'm gonna invest in Mika, and like April said, and she said this in the chat one time, so I don't think she minds me saying this. April says, well, I stopped subscribing to the Post and Courier, and I kind of tune in more to you. I want to say thank you. And one way you can still get that news, because people might not understand it. Yes, I do. I don't antagonize the Post and Courier. I interrogate. I critique. Other words I like to use. But I still have to read the Post and Courier. This is my local newspaper. I still have to read it. But how do I do that if I don't want to make a financial commitment? How do I do that if I want to be more subversive in how I get my news? You just have to use your library card. And so right here on my screen, I just clicked out of, right here on my screen is the Newsbank database. When you use your library card and you go to the research tab from Charleston Public Library, you go to research tab and then you go through the they have it like a moving stream of databases. Newsbank is the one where you'll find news. And I wanted to lift this up real quick before we jump into it, because as we talk about where do we get our news, right? How do we find more trustworthy options? Newsbank has not every single paper, like it's going to be different. You can't really access the New York Times this way, or the Washington Post, or the LA Times. But as you can see here, you got not just print media. You got This Hour with Berman and Michaela at CNN. You got 11th Hour with Brian Williams. You got television news. You got news from other countries. You got news from Bahrain, Canada, 60 Minutes. And then what I do is I go through the A through Z search list. If you're new to this, and go to Post and Courier, right? See, boom, it pops up. You see about 4 different versions. So these versions are different. You have some archived Post and Couriers here, and then the one I like to click on for mornings is the one that gives me like the paper, like the paper that you could buy on the street or at a gas station or whatnot. So that's going to be this one, the 2018 to current, and it says image right here. It says newspaper image. It's the third one, and when you click on that, and you can do this with the state newspaper too. You just put it in the state newspaper, and it's not quite like a Google search, but you keep playing around with it and get used to it. But you can definitely access the state newspaper here as well. And then here you have all the physical copies, all the digital versions of the physical copies that hit the newsstands. And yeah, they're available as soon as Post and Courier makes them available, I guess. So today's the 18th. We'll click on the 18th. Let's see the front page. We're gonna look at it together. And then we're gonna get into it. Good morning, everyone joining. Good morning if you're watching and listening on Twitch. Looks like I got some eyeballs on. Good morning. So this is the front page of the Post and Courier. Like I said, you can please critique. I want to make the Post and Courier better. I do. A lot of people don't understand that the call out is a call in. Like, y'all do better, and also stop underestimating your readership, and stop acting as if your readership is only old white retirees with money. Right? Maybe that's largely your readership, and that's probably a indication that y'all need to do something different. But yeah, so this is the front page of the Post and Courier today. This is a really sad story. These bus stories are really, 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 really rotten, right? Big jump in overdose deaths. So this is from the hydrochloroquine. You know what I'm trying to say? That alternative therapy that people are seeking out. It says battle over mask policies spur bus driver shortage. All right, this story over here, I talked about this. Head over to Instagram. I'm not going to talk about it this morning. Head over to Instagram. Shout out to Paul Bowers for dropping the Root article on Miss Thang right here, Miss Kennedy, Miss Lulu Kennedy. So donor quits USC. This made all kinds of front page news. She's a millionaire who made a lot, just like Navarro, made a lot during the pandemic. Just like Navarro, she made a lot during the pandemic being predatory as fuck, right? And so a lot of people are like, oh, this is sad. This woman, she's a woman leader. She's a woman boss. She's a girl boss. And she says that her opinions don't... Girl, man, look, please, show me the Carfax first. Before you start, shedding tears for a millionaires, please, let's look at what she's been doing during the pandemic. That's how I know who you really are. You know how they say how you eat popcorn in private is who you really are? How you make money during the pandemic is who you really are. Ben Navarro, Miss Kennedy, right? All right, so how do y'all eat popcorn? All right, damn, look at the top. I buried the lead. Nation, up the top, above the masthead. Nation, to be cleared in Malcolm X killing. To be cleared in the Malcolm X killing. That's interesting. All right, let's hop over. For the interest of time, I'm just going to hop over to the digital version of the state newspaper. Yep, track 5, use your library card. I got you. So I'm not using my library card right here in the interest of time. And so these are the digital headlines for the state newspaper, and we'll open up their front page. So more Alex Murdaugh news. I'm not interested. Again, more Lou Kennedy news. I think Mayan Schechter is on that beat. I'll check to see who it is. South Carolina schools chief says district libraries should review policies after book controversy. Here she go. We already talked about book banning. If we got to do a part 2, we'll talk about that too, right? This is there's a lot going on with these buses. That's not a bus story though. Sigh. All right, let's open up and then we're gonna get to it, y'all. We're gonna get to it. Hold on, I just want to do a quick little. This is gonna be my local roundup, real quick. Just looking at the front pages of the story of the local papers. And so also, if you are subscribed to Post and Courier and the state newspaper, you do have access to their e-version of the paper. You can access this version right here with your library card. So look at them. Above the fold, biggest headline, Kennedy resigns from USC presidential race in protest. Good. Stomp off. Be mad. You would think, yeah, well, anyway. And this is the middle of the paper. Rickman finishes atop the mayoral race. It's like a day late and $1 short. And then, because today's Thursday. Spearman wants stronger library book review policies. That's some bullshit. We'll keep an eye on that for sure. But this is the front page of the state newspaper. Yeah, Miss Kennedy, go to my Instagram stories while they're up for 24 hours. Don't cry for her. Don't cry for her at all, right? Let me see. Susanna, back to my popcorn comment. You shovel large amounts of popcorn in your mouth whether I'm in public or private. That's who you really are. Good. Don't change for anyone. Okay. All right, let's get to it. So I'm gonna open up you know what? Let me switch my face up real quick. Hold on. Y'all get to look at my face because I can't let y'all see my inbox. I don't want to play myself. So let me open up I sent myself a bevy of articles this morning, and I want to make sure y'all don't see too much of my personal business as I open up. I gotta stop doing that. I gotta stop opening up everything. All right, hold up. So what I tried to do is find articles. Open that one. Articles pertaining to media magnates, millionaires, billionaires. We're going to talk about Bezos. We're going to talk about Rupert Murdoch a skosh, right? And this thing, why are billionaires so intent on buying the news? Okay, hold on. Not that one. Here we go. Opening up a lot of tabs, y'all. Hold on one second. Hopefully they make sense. Hopefully I can remember everything. Shout out to the city paper as well. All right, so I'm going to close that out and open up YouTube. All right, here we go. Having a ball this morning. Having a ball. All right, so let me go to my history. Boom. All right, cool. So we're gonna kind of dive into and also too I'm trying to create this media presence here. You love a good bevy. I'm trying to create media presence here, so it makes me be more. It makes me want to look a little bit closer at some best practices. Like what should I be prioritizing? Hold on one second. Let me just type in education labs. I closed my email out. Education lab if anyone has that link to that Education Lab announcement from the Post and Courier or anything like that, you could drop it in the Twitch chat for me. Education Lab, Post and Courier. But I think I'm about to find it. Here we go. And I'm not going to open Facebook on here because I don't want to create some sort of echo, right? But I need to find the Education Lab like announcement. Because this is what we want to center this conversation on. I think this is it. From July. Oh, before Mitch dipped, right? Okay, so here you have you got a few people here at the table. Okay. You got Post and Courier reports Jennifer Berry Hawes, Glenn Smith left, right? Hosted a forum on education issues at Trident Technical College. So we already have out the gate, we have a billionaire connection there. I see somebody I know. I see some people I rock with, I mess with, right? Forum on education using Trident Technical College. Thank you, Honor. On Monday, April 1st, April Fools 2019, they were joined by panelists from Left, Charleston County Schools Superintendent Jarita Postlethwaite, Charleston Metro Chamber of Commerce Senior Vice President Tina Worth, Charleston Promise Neighborhood CEO. I know that's where I know Sherry from. When we know about that, right? All right, and military magnet teacher. I like Natasha. I've been in her class from Natasha Akery. I've been in her classroom. I love her. Again, this is nothing against. Well, Jarita can suck a lemon, but nothing against these two specific people right here. I know that they in the public, a lot of people have a lot of affection for and respect for Sherry and for Natasha. Yeah. So this was back in. Let me see real quick. If anyone knows like the connections or what we should be watching out for Charleston Promise neighborhood, like make it plain. If you know a little bit more about, because I do too, but you understand why it's important that we lift up the fact that why is the Chamber of Commerce, why is Charleston Metro Chamber of Commerce talking about education? Why is Charleston Promise neighborhood featured so prominently, right? Why is this being facilitated by why is it being facilitated at Trident Tech? All of this is political, y'all. And I think that's the part where people get a little like exhausted. All of this is political, right? Is this the same article? Let me see, Honor. Is it? Yeah, it was the same article. We both jinxed each other. Jinx. All right, so let me just read a little bit. In 2018, the Post and Courier undertook the daunting but important task of cataloging the many reasons why South Carolina's public education system was failing to prepare students for college and beyond. We didn't mince our words. This is what they say. We didn't mince our word. The first story in the multi-part series titled Minimally Adequate, I remember that, began like this: divided by race. They went into the whole Jennifer Berry Hawes, toolkit. I don't know if she wrote it, but I feel like she does write a lot of this. Divided by race. Mired in inequities and hobbled by its history, South Carolina's public school system is among the worst in the nation, saddled with a legacy of apathy and low expectations that threatens the state's newfound prosperity. South Carolina, newfound. Y'all been making money off cotton, indigo, exploiting labor, sharecropping, tenant farming. Y'all been having some prosperity for a little bit. No real black power. Oh, y'all ain't no newfound fucking prosperity. You talking about Boeing and a couple of cars? Nah, there's been plenty of wealth here. Plenty of wealth. Plenty. Undisclosed. Sorry. All right. Threatens the state's newfound prosperity. South Carolina schools trail other states in nearly every measure, leaving students unprepared for the world that awaits them as businesses struggle to find qualified workers to fill skilled jobs. All right. That's how it started, right? They give themselves be leery of the paper that gives themselves a pat on the back as the opening. This series of stories and forums held throughout the state garnered significant attention and seemed to galvanize lawmakers, educators, and the public to do something about it. After promising start, the most aggressive reform efforts ultimately went nowhere. Today, South Carolina's public education system is much in the same place that it was when our series first was published. That's why the Post and Courier is partnering with funders. That is one more time. That's why the Post and Courier is partnering with funders and other. I guess not all funds are created equal. I get it, right? That's why the Post and Courier is partnering with funders and other organizations to launch in our state to launch our own education lab over the next 3 years, and hopefully longer. We are going to bring our focus efforts to bear on this important issue. I'm gonna stop it right there. Right? Zucker, right? When you talk about the panel, Zucker, all up and through this, right? And what I think the Post and Courier, what I know they're doing is like they're not. Okay, so let me find that email. I don't think it's gonna be. Laysai. All right. Oh shit. Hold up. All right. Yeah, it's all good. Let me find. No, I don't want to put that on. I don't want to put that. Let me close it. I don't want to put that up there. What's this? Who's this? Max, first time chatter. Where am I? Ain't got no moderators here. let me go ahead and take care of this real quick. Little mama's not here today. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Cool. But what? Okay. So. Trying to get to the education labs thing. Let me open up. Sorry, Facebook. I'm going to have to close the app real quick and open up because I don't want to open up email too much. So basically, there's a Facebook group, a new Facebook group that's launched, right? Education Labs, Post and Courier, launched on Facebook, Education Labs, community, and it says community-funded journalism. Community-funded journalism. They are trying to get people to invest, like trying to crowdsource this, but we can't ignore the other interests. So a group dedicated to covering and discussing all major happenings in education across South Carolina, right? And I think I have the picture. I think I have that. The picture downloaded. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so if you were on Facebook or what have you, you saw this. This is nothing personal. All right, so here you see Libby Stanford changed the name of the group from Post and Courier Charleston Area Education to Post and Courier Education Lab, right? So this is what you would see right here. So Education Lab, a group dedicated to covering and discussing all the major happenings in education across South Carolina. Some of the commentary or takeaways from people who are really passionate about pursuing, or passionate about advocating for public schools here. Bought and paid for this is how someone characterized it. Bought and paid for education news, and they're creating a group on Facebook to kind of help cultivate that. This is some really to me very, very savvy commentary. All right. Like there's no transparency regarding the funding of this education lab, considering the hardcore anti-public school stance that CCF has had officially taken in the education advocacy white paper. So CCF, Coastal Community Foundation, is very much has supported a number of interests that are in support of school privatization. Let me keep going. For those who didn't know that, for those who might be struggling with that, that's just what it is. We've made those connections on other live streams, right? It says the fact that they are funneling community donations to the Education Lab reporting is a huge problem. It's a big conflict, and I don't know if it is disclosed in the group. They say as an act of transparency, they want to tell you that, hey, we've enlisted Coastal to help us process this money, right? So this person's opinion was that this is where both MAGA-backed education factions, think Tim Scott, think Anita Zucker, right? MAGA-backed ed factions will play out some kind of narrative that results in Coalition for Kids. That's Ben Navarro, that's Anita Zucker, where Coalition for Kids and Navarro, right? Coalition for Kids, Navarro, CCSD being cast as contemporary civil rights leaders. That's an interesting take right there. That's a very interesting take. Community funded by billionaire philanthropists, right? Sounds like they're giving people a place to dump their, not just that, D-Mill, so basically they're collecting money. Let me read the other graphic. So this group, it says that this group by the Post and Courier is a place for discussions about South Carolina education. Everyone is welcome to be a part of the conversations here. They've assigned moderators for this discussion. It says, please reach out to any of these individuals if you have any questions or comments about the group. If you'd like to support the work, right? So they have a link there where you can subscribe, and they tell you that you can also solicit questions, but or ask questions. But it's really, let me open this up. Right. So yeah, that's the old art. That's the July 4th article that I just read from just a minute ago. So what people don't understand is Ben Navarro and his cozy relationship with the Post and Courier, yes, but also with Coastal complicates things. Let me see. Let's get back to one thing I want to do is go back to Ben Navarro's TED Talk, because that actually kind of, no, Charleston. That kind of also distills it a little bit too, right? So we watched this during the Ben Navarro, when we're looking more into Ben Navarro's practices at being very aggressive during the pandemic and being aggressive, period. Being a debt collector to me poses some sort of moral conflict in general, right? So Joy, you said this in the chat. It says they bought the narrative. I guess you might trying to say these groups are now in charge of education, news, and they paint whatever picture they like. So this has been Navarro on public education. You don't know it,
but I find
you don't know it. This is how stealthily it moves. This is how benign it comes off. Oh, he loves kids. He loves education. Or does he really just see an opportunity? Is he a prospector? And I would venture to say he's a prospector. God. Jesus.
I don't know about you, but I find the older that I get, the more that simple, practical logic provides the answers to most of life's most complicated problems. When I was younger and someone would explain something really complicated to me,
oh my God,
I would tend to think, they just must be smarter than me. Well, now when that same situation happens, I tend to think, they don't really know what they're talking about. Well, education is no different. You know, so many of us care so deeply about education.
So what he's also doing is preying on your concerns and fears. Like, everyone wants quality education. Y'all know I don't have children, but you know that I've been politicized. I was politicized as early as 1998 here in Charleston because the education system that I had moved to was so inferior. My experience at Charleston County Public Schools was so traumatic, literally traumatic for me. And I'm bringing that up because education means something to me. Right, I did volunteer and have volunteered in classrooms, in public school classrooms. I want to change the experience. If students today in 2021 are having the same experience I had in 1998, 1999 at St. Andrews, then that's a big problem, right? So it even tugs at my heartstrings, even though I'm not a parent with children, with school-age children. And I think this is what Ben Navarro is preying upon. I think, and also it feels like a no-brainer. It feels like an uncomplicated issue. But I really wish people would really question a billionaire opening up a school. I really wish people would just basically question that. I get kind of getting a little confused by Anita Zucker because she's a real G. She move in silence, right? A little bit. She loud, but she quiet too, kind of, right? But and I think that's a factor of her being a woman, and you know what I mean? I think that's an issue there, but like not an issue, but I think that plays into it. But you really have to question, like, you know, this is an easy issue. A lot of people, oh yeah, sure, I want better schools. Of course we want better schools. We want kids to have better amenities at where they learn, all that stuff. He's preying upon people's desire for that, the community's desire for that.
As we know, it is inextricably linked to the future of our country. Yet so many of us are so confused about what to do. I know I used to be one of those confused people too. Well, what if I told you that if you'll stay with me for the next 10 minutes or so,
We're not going to watch that long.
you will find that same simple, practical logic applies. While you'll have some real clarity as to the answers, make no mistake, the answers may be relatively simple, but the work is very, very hard. I care about education not because of some idealistic view of what people should know. Heck, I didn't even like school all that much, to be honest. For me, school was a stepping stone or a box to check before I could get out into the world. But the public schools that I attended, they were good schools, schools that gave me the ability to communicate in writing and verbally, and gave me a solid background in math. I like to say that when I graduated college, I didn't know anything, which is totally true.
It's so patronizing.
But I did have the ability to talk to people and to learn what I needed to.
So why are you trying to privatize everything, right? Why are you trying to privatize everything? Let me read the inside book jacket of A Wolf at the Schoolhouse Door. All right, Betsy DeVos may be the most prominent face of the push to dismantle public education, but she is in fact part of a large movement that's been steadily gaining power and notching progress for decades, amassing funds, honing its message, and crafting policies. This is why media is so important, right? While support for public education today is stronger than ever, the movement to save our schools remains fragmented, variable, and voluntary. Meanwhile, those set on destroying this beloved institution are unified, patient, and well-resourced. Ben Navarro, Anita Zucker, okay? And A Wolf at the Schoolhouse Door, Jack Schneider and Jennifer Berkshire, co-hosts of the popular education podcast, Have You Heard?, lay out the increasingly potent network of conservative elected officials, advocacy groups, funders, there's that word again, funders, the funder complex, y'all, is real, and think tanks that have aligned behind a radical vision to make public education, to unmake public education. All right, they describe the dogma underpinning the work of the dismantlers and how it fits into the current political context, giving readers an up-close look at the policies, school vouchers, the war on teachers' unions, tax credit scholarships, virtual schools, and more, driving the movement's agenda. Finally, they look forward, surveying the world the dismantlers that threaten to the world that dismantlers threaten to build. Right. All right. So I'm gonna stop there. But yeah, this is big. Over in the chat, Honor, you dropped in the chat earlier. Navarro's schools are paid for by public funding, our taxes, and spending and curriculum are hidden from the public. So there's no transparency with that, right? With the spending, there's no transparency with what they're being taught, right? That's not even public because they have that public-private hybrid, okay? Right. I'm Ben Navarro, this is Jackass. Public schools gave me the ability to be right? Exactly. I caught that too, Allie. I can't talk though. I always mess up my words. Right. He hated school and didn't learn anything. Right. It's just really weird. We know how how billionaire bros kind of get down. But let me hey, everything they made was on their own, bootstrapped. They dropped out of Yale, they dropped out of Harvard, right? But what I really want to lift up is that, okay, so there were a couple other things. We're going to look into the Post and Courier, too, how they move, especially this part, because it's not just about, it's like, is it a paper or is it more than a paper? And Post and Courier, like many publications, like the City Paper, they're more than just what we see on the front or what we see up front, right? All right, so this is also an interesting story, too, as we look at what money interests and how the Post and Courier is trying to maneuver. We saw a mass exodus from the Post and Courier. A lot of really, really great award-winning journalists left the Post and Courier in the last calendar year, and record numbers. Like, it was hard to ignore how many people left the Post and Courier. That mass exodus plus their business decisions have been very curious, and I think it factors into this conversation today. Here, for real. El Cool J, you said that he's counting on people not digging into any of it. Citizens, right, as consumers of news, want quick recaps and not questioning where that info comes from. So again, with the Education Lab, thank you for that. With the Education Lab series, that's launched. It's anchored by the nonprofit industrial complex, the funder complex. I'm trying to go back to here we go, right? So we see that, right? We see that with this panel discussion here, minimally adequate, right? Whatever. And also too, as they said on the Facebook group, that their money is being processed, funneled through Coastal. Can somebody drop in the chat really quickly, Coastal, like if you can contextualize for me, Coastal's relationship to Ben Navarro, just to help me be more succinct so I don't kind of go through so many more tabs. Can you drop it in the chat here on Twitch? Why there's a conflict with Coastal and privatization. If someone can do a little quick synopsis, I'd really appreciate it. I want to go back to YouTube though, and I want to kind of just look at some clips that I kind of queued up this morning. Shout out to the new subby on Patreon. I really appreciate it. That really is helpful. Thank you, Leslie. Shout out to you. But let's talk about this practice of billionaires and paper, like tiptoeing into media, trying to control the narrative, all of that, right? I don't want to go too old. Some of these are really, really old, but this is really interesting right here because the Koch brothers are in this. This is really interesting. Hold on. And if you can't help me out with that connection between Coastal and Ben Navarro, I have the news clips, but they're not at my disposal at this moment.
Buffett paid more than $300 million to buy 28 newspapers, but now 2 other billionaires may be looking at buying some of the country's biggest.
This is from a few years ago. Of course, we know R.I.P. Charlie Rose's career, but this is from a few years ago, but this still is an important story.
Papers, and that is leading to vocal opposition. Jan Crawford is in Chicago. Jan, good morning.
Well, good morning, Charlie. Good morning, Nora. You know, Chicago is famously known as the city of big shoulders, but at its heart, always were the newspapers. This was a great newspaper town. So reports that the billionaire Koch brothers are interested in possibly buying the Tribune and other newspapers across the country have some people here wondering if this is the end of an era or if that era, the glory days of newspapers, ended a long time ago. Chicago's newspaper traditions are as colorful as the characters who filled the city's newsrooms, going back to the days of the front page.
I'm no stuffed shirt writing peanut ads. I'm a newspaper man.
The classic newspaper movie set naturally in Chicago. The real-life reporters and columnists are just as legendary. From movie critics Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel to Ann Landers, and of course, the voice of the city, chain-smoking, booze-drinking Mike Royko.
This, in this era, was when a newspaper was the heart and soul of a city.
Rick Kogan is a longtime newspaper man, a fixture in Chicago and at the Billy Goat Tavern, where journalists used to gather and where we talk this week about the glory days.
It seems like newspapers are just such an integral part of what Chicago is.
In this town, more than any other, newspapers became almost like a part of the family.
But now there are reports the family could soon change as Tribune Company considers whether to sell the flagship newspaper and 7 others nationwide, including the Los Angeles Times. The company emerged from bankruptcy in December and says all its media properties are profitable. But these have been dark days for daily newspapers. The Rocky Mountain News and Cincinnati Post closed. The New Orleans Times-Picayune and Birmingham News now are published only 3 days a week. Among those reportedly interested in the Tribune papers are billionaires Charles and David Koch, businessmen also known for supporting conservative causes.
The fastest rate of job creation.
Including spending hundreds of millions of dollars for Republican candidates.
Okay, so you see how that's a conflict. I wanted to just show that part right there. So you see like the most basic conflict. Okay, let me see. Okay. Okay, I can't do 2 things at once. I'm sorry. Need some. Okay, I need. Hold on 1 second. Okay. I wanted to use that video to kind of underscore the growing problem. Then I want to get to this one right here, which is very troubling. This is from 2017, but again, another one that I think people have been more critical of Bezos as of late, but because we consume so much Amazon, Audible, Prime, Whole Foods, I think that we don't, and plus, like the Washington Post tends to lean liberal, we're not as critical of Bezos as we could be, right? As we could be. And when you hear this to me frightens me, because I suspect that this is a trend that these local billionaires will pick up on and emulate in some way, shape, or form, right? So let's take a listen to this.
I bought the Washington Post fundamentally because I think it's an important institution. It's the newspaper in the capital city of the United States.
Real quick, if you really look at like Navarro and Bezos, they move similarly. In that, I would say specifically with the newspaper influence part, that's one. But also the interest in sports team. We know that Ben Navarro tried to bid on the Carolina Panthers, but because of how he made his money, the other billionaires, right? So the other ones, the Jerry Joneses and the Navarro family and all that, the Rooneys, old money was like, I don't know, we want to have a predatory debt collector as one of our owners. So he lost out on an opportunity. And that was reported by ESPN, that they really didn't like how he made his money. And so let me just say this. If Jerry Jones, NFL owners are the worst. Look at the Washington football team. NFL owners are the worst. If they find you to be repugnant, and if old fossil fuel money and old energy, Texas, if they find that, I don't know, G, I don't know if you can own this team. Anyway, I digress. But both Bezos and Navarro have showed interest in trying to acquire a team. People think that Bezos is aiming to own the Washington football team, but we'll see that. I got you in the chat. Thank you so much for helping me out. I need help today, y'all. And I know some of y'all don't want to put y'all name on stuff. I get that. I protect my sources for sure. But if you can help me, just point me in the right direction. I'm doing 3 screens, and 2 chats. So any help is really welcome to help me add to this conversation. If you feel inclined, if you feel safe enough to say it. Joy, you offered up something in the chat up top. Aside from the tax breaks, look at where they are opening these schools, right? We have a concentration in North Charleston, right? But District 23, Hollywood Ravenel, has been begging for help for ages. I guarantee you'll see a bigger, faster real estate push in North Charleston, right? Elko J, you said this in the chat over here on Twitch. Not what you were asking, but an article of Navarro donated to CFC. Yes. No, that's it. That's part of it. I know that's college, right? I know that's what, post-secondary, but I got you. Not what you were asking, but an article Navarro donated to CFC to help educate teachers with the focus on schools serving under-resourced children. No, that's exactly it. That's exactly part of the game, right? But let's continue to watch how, again, Jeff Bezos talking about the future of newspapers. Let's watch this a little bit.
Of America, it has historically done a great job of covering the federal government. I wanted to see that continue. I wasn't seeking to buy a newspaper. It was not in my mind back in 2013, and I got approached by Don Graham, who, when I talked to him about this, basically said to him, look, I'm probably not the right guy because I don't know anything about the newspaper business. And he said, we've got a lot of people at the Post who know a lot about the newspaper business. We're really looking for somebody who can help us with the internet. And
that's scary.
And so after a lot of conversation, I finally decided to take that on, and I took it and take it today as a very serious responsibility. I'm very missionary about it. I care about it. I care about the independence of the newsroom, and I don't want to let Don Graham down because he was very selective in passing it on to somebody. I wouldn't let the newsroom down. I love the technology team, and they've been experimenting now, and they've found some things that work, and it's super exciting. many ways, Amazon, we run Amazon and the Washington Post in a very similar way in terms of the basic approach. We attempt to be customer-centric, which in the case of the Post means reader-centric. And you could be, I think you can get confused. You can be advertiser-centric. And what advertisers want, of course, is readers. And so you should be simple-minded about that, and you should be focused on readers. And if you can focus on readers, advertisers will come. So also at Amazon, we try to be inventive and experimental, and we try to do that at the Post. And then finally, we take a long-term orientation at Amazon, and we do that at the Post. So all of this, so the domain is different, journalism versus e-commerce and web services, but the approach has been the same. And it's working well. We have a great team, the technology.
So what we know too about this, it is chilling, because what we know too is like what he's not saying is that this also helps him shape the news about not just himself, but a lot of his interests, how he makes his wealth. And that's why you have to scrutinize connections between billionaires and the media, right? I referenced the movie Citizen Kane earlier, or if I didn't, well, I referenced it with the name of today's live stream. That's something that's a constant theme in the movie. As the movie progresses, the central character starts out to be the paper of the small guy, and just becomes more and more morally corrupt and obsessed with framing opinions for people. And this practice again is largely seen. We can see it with Rupert Murdoch, I think, more explicitly. But this is another billionaire who has come into the media. Well, let's watch this. This is going to be all text. So let me, for those who are listening and not reading or watching, billionaires love buying newspapers, even though the industry is struggling, right? Just like public schools, right? Just hear me out. We're trying to keep drawing a conclusion. Real quick, before I get to this, thank you. Okay. Hold on, I'm just responding to chat. Where is... Sorry, y'all. Need a producer so bad. Okay, so let me rewind it a little bit. Again, this is for those who are listening and not watching. I want to read this. I hate videos like this. I know these are all the rage, but like, I'm all for text, but like, just say something. All right, Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff, and this is not relatively recent, y'all. Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff is buying Time Magazine for $190 million. Right. All right. Benioff and his wife Lynn say it's a family investment, calling themselves caretakers. We're gonna get to link El J's article she dropped, right? Because the same thing. So billionaire Mark Benioff and his wife are like, oh, we're caretakers. We're stewards of the community. Okay, just keep that in mind. Biotech billionaire Patrick Sheung bought the LA Times for $500 million in 2018.
So I believe there has to be a trusted news source that somebody could go to.
And that's the other thing too. They're preying upon and relying upon the trust that we have in our institutions, the trust that we have, in our papers. And they're going to come in, and then there will be an agenda, unfortunately.
That is fair and impartial, but really wants to report the news.
Okay, I missed that figure. It says in 2013, Amazon founder and CEO Jeff Bezos, we know he's no longer CEO, right? Bought the Washington Post for $250 million. Did you see that? So it says Bezos said buying the paper was a business endeavor, not philanthropy. Okay. All right. The company made a profit in 2016 and 2017.
I think a lot of us
Thank you for the link.
Democracy dies in darkness, that certain institutions have a very important role in making sure that there is light. And I think the Washington Post has a seat, an important seat to do that, because we happen to be located here in the capital city of the United States of America.
All right, Red Sox owner, again, see the correlation between sports teams, billionaires, and papers and media is wild, right? They are heady prospectors. Red Sox owner John Henry paid $70 million for Boston Globe in 2013. I didn't know that, actually. I did not know that. All right, he said, I invested in the Globe because I believe deeply in the future of this great community. They all say the same thing. And the Globe should play a vital role in determining that future. Okay. Casino magnate Sheldon Adelson secretly bought the Las Vegas Review-Journal in 2015. Y'all, they are shaping opinions. This is why you have to support independent media, right? Former reporters and editors say he's tried to exert control over stories. So wow, that's amazing. Like, that's not even surprising, right? But Adelson denies meddling. He's wearing a lot of hair paint. But Adelson denies meddling in the editorial process. Bullshit. It's impossible to be that wealthy and influential. It's impossible for you not to have some kind of influence over editorial decisions. That's the whole point. Warren Buffett, all right? Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway owns more than 30 local newspapers. All right?
We pay the quarterly, but I still love newspapers, so I'm very glad we own them.
So this is the problem with billionaires too. Like with Navarro and like with other interests, this is the problem. Hey, in the chat, hey Charlie, in the chat. This is the other problem with newspapers as well, or excuse me, with billionaires is they move with a mindset where they acquire and they feel like that their leadership, their stewardship, their ownership is the solution, as opposed to sinking that money into independent journalism, into supporting independent journalism. Cultivating a space where more independent journalists or where local papers can maintain their own independence. It's to me, it's kind of weird. It's weird that the Post and Courier has very much been very public with its cozy relationship with both Anita Zucker and Ben Navarro, and then they also just launched a series about how local papers are dying. To me, it's really interesting. They're dying because we've ceded power. We've ceded any type of leverage we've had to billionaires and their interests and to their narratives. So to me, and I want you to understand, while I'm a critic of like Adam Parker, Jennifer Berry Hawes, who both are good writers, like they're good, but I'm critical of like the spaces they occupy, and the stories they tend to craft and how they craft them. But they are good journalists, and there are tons of great journalists at both the state newspaper, at the Post and Courier. They're great reporters there. And I'm not trying to impugn their integrity, but they can't. And I'm sure if you got them off the record, closed door, in the parking lot, somewhere shrouded in mystery, I'm sure even the most devout journalists or committed journalists at the Post and Courier will admit to you that there are certain editorial decisions that have a political bend to them, right? So anyway, we just watched that Warren Buffett, he acquired 30 local newspapers. He said he's glad that he owns them. Right. So it's really interesting. Let me click on some of the links that I asked for help with here. I want to go back to El Cool J. I got too many things open. I wanted to read this too. 7 billionaires on Forbes list that has ties to Charleston. I'm gonna close this out, but here you go. Of course, Anita Zucker, right? This is supposed to, the Forbes list is supposed to be looked at as something really like a flex, and it's not. Like if you're someone who can't stand capitalism, the Forbes list is like a slap in the face. So Zucker, Charleston resident, billionaire, right? Yeah, I don't even want to. Ted Turner. It's a bunch of billionaires here. I just want to say there's 7 billionaires on the Forbes list that have ties to Charleston. So that shows you right there should be no scarcity. There should be no Burke High School shouldn't be in need of resourcing and funding. We shouldn't have to. All this money is tied to Charleston. It makes you think, like, why is there inequity, right? Billionaires just shouldn't exist. I'm not going to do this one. Let me close this out. Now let me go back at the LQJ. Open this article. Right. So this was an article published by College of Charleston. Gift to C of C focuses on teacher education and underserved children. Girl, this is right. This is exactly it. You hit it right in the center of the bullseye. Charleston businessman, look at this. Charleston businessman. Charleston debt collector Ben Navarro, founder of CEO of Sherman Financial Group, and his wife Kelly on March 15, 2021, announced significant gift through the BMOC Family Foundation. That's their company. Family Foundation that will enhance the College of Charleston's reputation as leading educator of teachers that will go to their public-private hybrid type schools that are really just private schools. All right. The Navarro substantial, look at this. And this is the problem here too, because they've given so much to the school has to write flattering pieces on them, right? And the school is not a paper. I hope the college paper does. I don't know how the CFC, the student paper, I never read it. I don't know if it's really good. Certain student papers are really, really good. But I don't know if they've critiqued Ben Navarro's proximity to College of Charleston. But anyway, the Navarros, this is really tiny. Y'all can't see this. It says here, the Navarro's substantial philanthropic commitment to the college's teacher education program will help to provide resources to recruit exceptional talent. The goal is to help distinguish the university as a nationally recognized training center. Again, Anita Zucker's doing this over at Trident, right? With the bars and aeronauticals and the whole aeronautical complex that's being built on Johns Island with her name on it, right? All right, so the goal is to help distinguish the university as a nationally recognized training center for teachers who will serve K through public K through 12. But we know that they really want teachers to go into that public-private bullshit or those private schools, with a focus on schools serving underserved, under-resourced children and communities, preying on impoverished or Black and brown communities, right? So that's really gross, but people are gonna applaud that. Let me open up the other links that I asked for. Thank you so much for the help. I kind of was a little floundering a little bit there, y'all. So thank you so much for the help. This reason why I do this on Twitch is to talk about this with y'all and help me put this together, right? So this is the corporate influence on CCSD, and why I think this was important, just to remind folks of Coastal's relationship with Coalition for Kids specifically, right? So here, let me see, let me see, save image. All right, save image, and then let me see if I go. I might open it up the other way. Hold on 1 second. Let me make this bigger. Here we go. All right, so I can zoom in a little bit. Okay, so corporate influence on CCSD community engagement. The district, it says right here, the district process determining whether 15 Title I schools will be made available for takeover for private partnerships, right? So this whole graphic is something that we need to look at. But let's look over here, because we already talked about a Coalition for Kids. We talked about Josh Bell and his bullshit. Josh Bell now works right up under Ben Navarro, right? Helping recruit those teachers, right? Pipeline. All right. So Coastal Community Foundation, it says Coalition for Kids founding member and Coastal Community Foundation's Social Venture Partners board member Eric Dom, co-convened Shared Future. In late 2020, early 2021, co-convener Maurice Washington, MAGA, right, made multiple requests that the CCSD school board re-engage the facilitators of Mission Critical with partners with Shared Future to do additional work. Why is that important? So just looking at, does Maurice have, let's just concentrate on the coalition part, or rather the coastal community part. You got to look at that connection. You can't dismiss this connection here. And when you realize that Coastal is supporting these initiatives, is creating programming to continue to further this message that's been crafted and promoted by Maurice Washington, who is a deplorable sellout, and a MAGA sycophant, and also very, very cozy, black man, very cozy with white supremacists, took selfies and everything with Proud Boys, doesn't care, and insurrectionists. So when you look at this connection between those two, then it makes you think about the education lab. If this is Coastal's stance on education, if Coastal promotes the ideas and the methods of Coalition for Kids, well, then how is this education lab thing? What is their influence? What is their role? I don't think that they're just like some sort of fiscal sponsor, if you will. I don't believe that they're a fiscal sponsor for this education lab. I think that they figure more prominently in that, right? All right, I'm gonna go to this other. I know I gotta catch up in the chat. I'm trying. Hold on, I'm gonna close out that Facebook one. Okay. So making decisions for CCSD. Again, this is for just trying to help y'all make the connection between Navarro and education. And when you make the connection between Navarro, education, and CCF, and then the education lab, you get it. Like I hope it's not too daunting for you all. I hope you're not thinking that it's too. It is all over the place. It is hard to parse through. It's not easy, but that's what it's designed to do, is to fatigue you and to get you exhausted or what have you. So here's another graphic. Who's making money decisions for CCSD? So you got Coalition for Kids right here. Meeting Street Schools. Let's focus on Ben Navarro, okay? Even though he's inextricably linked to Coalition for Kids, has hired Josh Bell, the former director of Coalition for Kids, to work for him. Meeting Street Schools, MSS, LLC, receiving it's an LLC, y'all, an LLC receiving public funding from Charleston County School District to operate privately, right? So as we already just learned from y'all in the chat, shout out to y'all. There's no transparency with the curriculum, and there's no transparency on a lot of money decisions as well, right? So remember, Meeting Street Schools is owned by Ben Navarro and his Sherman Financial, a collection agency, right, owned by Ben Navarro. Okay, right. So that's part of the graphic that we're going to focus on. Who's really controlling? But then look at the bottom here. Others for third-party takeovers. Others advocating for third-party takeovers. Charleston Metro Chamber of Commerce, the Post and Courier's editorial board, Tri-County Cradle to Career Collaborative, and CCF, right? So then boom. So then when you go back to that story, who do we have up here? Chamber of Commerce, right? CCF is helping to process the money. Let me look for CCF in this article. In this Education Labs article. Coastal. Yeah. Okay, so here at the bottom, they said that if you are interested in supporting this important work, we are still seeking funders and partners. To learn more, you can visit all donations to the Education Lab will be funneled, their word, not mine, funneled through Coastal Community Foundation and are tax deductible, right? Right. That's troubling. And they put this at the very bottom. There's no mention of Coastal anywhere else in the bulk of the article. So they de-emphasize that. So when you go back to that graphic, and you say, well, who are other third parties who are advocating for takeovers, you got to factor in the Post and Courier here, right? And Coastal. You can't separate them. You can't divorce them. All right, let me keep going. Let me get to the bottom. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna get this last link out here. Yeah, here we go. So this is a picture right here. Let me just download it. Just like the Qataris, y'all. Just like you got business leaders from Qatar signing documents here in Charleston, and you see Anita Zucker just like standing there with like what what the hell? Like I don't understand. Why? Well, and we're taught not to question. We're taught not to question these connections, right? So this is Meeting Street Academy with government. So when I see this as look at these look at these beautiful black children that they use as props. Look, help the poors. help the poors. When I see this, my heart breaks, my heart aches. My heart aches because these kids are being used. Their story, the stories of poverty and all this other stuff that they love, because they love racializing poverty and they like racialize malnourishment and all that other bullshit. They love to put a black face on it. This is Charleston 101 right here. Put a black face on pain and pimp them for it. But when I see McMaster and these kids and Ben Navarro squinting and sweating over his shoulder, my heart breaks. But let's look at the caption. This is sad. Ooh, I didn't eat breakfast yet, but if I did, I would have threw up. It says, this is Coastal now. This is a post from Coastal, right? And again, don't stay in your feelings if this is bothering you. All right, we are celebrating a big win today for a policy agenda. Ooh, Coastal's just a third party. They're just philanthropy, right? Even my former employer had a very interesting. Cypress took money from Coastal, which was always, now that was a tough spot for me. That I did have enough awareness to be like, I don't know how I feel. I didn't say anything about it, but definitely. My former boss is very, very comfortable around billionaires and making herself accessible to billionaires and millionaires. All right, so it says we are celebrating a big win today for a policy agenda. The Schools of Innovation bill, which was one of our policy priorities. Okay, we're going to break that down. If someone wants to help me out with breaking down what schools of innovation are, if you want to break it down layman's terms, could be one sentence. All right, the Schools of Innovation bill, which was one of our policy priorities this year, was signed into law by Governor McMaster. We believe that public schools of innovation, not public schools, but public schools of innovation, okay? Public schools of innovation can be a powerful tool to advance equity in education in South Carolina. However, we believe school districts across South Carolina, look at Coastal getting so political, like not even tucking it. They are just like, I don't even know. I don't know if they could have been a little smoother with this. I think y'all might not be picking up on it like I am, but they're going all in. They're going all in, position themselves as power brokers. Absolutely. Especially with Darren is able to, not just Darren, their development department is very skilled at securing money. So they're very powerful because of the money they're able to raise off all these billionaires that exist here in South Carolina, and there's a few. All right, okay, so it says they should take additional. So it says, however, we believe in school districts across South Carolina should take additional measures than what is in the state laws to ensure that they are established in communities where other approaches haven't worked, right? So they're in support of public schools of innovation, not public schools. All right. So it says we will be working with local educators, Coalition for Kids, candidates and whatnot, community members, and school districts, right? And think about the school board composition. So Eric Mack is a Coalition for Kids candidate. There's a bunch of, I gotta run through who's still there and who's not. There's a good handful of Coalition for Kids board members there. So of course they're gonna work with school districts, especially when they buy the school, when they finish buying the school district. When they finish buying the school boards, when they finish buying Charleston County School Board, they'll be able to really go ham in Charleston and start to really you'll see public schools just fall away, right? So it says we will be working with local educators, community members, and school districts to provide support as they navigate how to apply the new education tool, right? Okay, going over here to the chat. Joy, you said this bill was signed into law is much different than what what Meeting Street schools wanted, but for sure, folks in CCSD are trying to do what they want instead of what's in the law. For sure. Thank you for that contextualization too. All right, I got you, D. Thank you. All right, Postalway has her place in the web. Yo, definitely. All right, Honor, you said that this is Coastal Community Foundation's advocacy policy model for education by Goss, by Darren Goss, right? Again, don't take this shit personally. If you love, So this right here, this is that white paper you were talking about. Is it the white paper? or is this not it? So this is what Schools of Innovation, thank you for breaking it down, a policy model for equitable education in South Carolina students, in South Carolina, for South Carolina students. Wow. So again, okay. I'm trying to do it. It's not the most simplest connection that I'll draw, but I really do hope y'all get this, right? So this is the introduction. The Post and Courier's 2018 series, Minimally Adequate. This sounds almost exactly like the article that Mitch wrote promoting the education lab, right? Minimally Adequate sounded an alarm and shined a spotlight. Did it really? Shine a spotlight on a dire situation that confront many students. Seriously, y'all, come on now. I've been talking about how shitty my experience was. I've been talking about how Charleston, how South Carolina's been at the bottom of the list of education. Y'all been talking about this. My grandparents talked about this. We saw billboards growing up of saying, thank God for Alabama and whomever and other states who rank lower. I hate when the Post and Courier acts as if their little series was the shining light. It really wasn't. We got something called the corridor of shame, dude. Like, I hate this Columbusing, like that they both are like Coastal's participating in, like, oh, wasn't until Post and Courier committed to uncovering this problem. No, there's been a problem. Y'all are now finding out how it's financially feasible or financially beneficial for y'all to be in bed together. So anyway, the Post and Courier's 2018 series, Minimally Adequate, sounded an alarm and shined a spotlight on the dire situation that confront many students and communities in South Carolina. Since its publication, our state has been dealing with education reforms as a means to resolve the issues identified in the article. This white paper seeks to propose a solution to one of the many issues identified, the creation of high-quality, dynamic innovative schools of innovation, especially those from disadvantaged backgrounds and communities, whatever. So this right here, if this does nothing else for y'all understand that of course Coastal and Post and Courier have been they've defined the relationship publicly. They are working together. But you remember how at the bottom of the article it just said that, oh, Coastal's processing the money and you can get your receipts, so you can, get your tax deduction around tax time. You see that was at the bottom. Then you realize that there's a white paper that exists that actually has policy prescriptions, conservative, school privatization leaning policies. So you can't ignore that. You can't ignore what Coastal has been working to do in our public school system. You can't ignore that and then be like, oh yeah, we just processing. They just processing payment. No. And then you have to look at, well, who has influence over at Coastal? How much does Ben Navarro weigh in on some of these decisions or help craft some of this policy? How many people, organizations, think tanks does he shuffle over to Coastal to help inform some of this decision making, some of this policy crafting? You can't ignore that. And then you can't ignore the Post and Courier's willingness, eagerness to weigh in on this, to occupy this space. You just can't, right? So again, it says this is shout out to Honor in the chat. The Coastal Community Foundation's advocacy policy model for education. This is supposedly written by Darren Goss, right? All right. In the chat, Joy, you dropped in the chat over here. Schools of Innovation can ask for waivers from state laws. Now, come on now. Think about, I want to read that again. Schools of Innovation can ask for waivers from state law. Think about the political climate we're in, y'all, with the vaccines and the maskings and the mandates in schools. Think about that. Tim Scott. Think about the Youngkin win. Think about all that hysteria around CRT. Think about that, y'all. Schools of Innovations can ask for waivers from state law. For example, they can ask to not need state teacher certification. Didn't we talk about this before? That the kind of educators they want to bring in are educators who are not certified. Come on, y'all. That should frighten the shit out of you, right? For example, let me read it again. For example, they can ask to not need state certification, state teacher certifications. They can ask for different seat time, etc. It can be good, but is used badly by Meeting Street schools, just like TIF districts aren't necessarily inherently bad, but we see developers like Mayor Riley and developers like Mayor Tecklenburg take money from public schools to subsidize these development or these destructionment projects, right? So TIFs, you could have like took a little here and you took a little there to help with some of these other projects. But what Mayor Riley did toward the end of his tenure specifically, and what Mayor Tecklenburg has continued on, is to take money from public schools, a lot of money from public schools, and give it right to people like West Edge, or to organizations like West Edge, right? Right? This is crazy. I just think this is really crazy. Right. So I'm just saying, like, just like TIFs, that the whole, this exemption shit is wild. So Joy, you said an interesting tidbit you learned recently. South Carolina is 48th in education, but 21st in funding. I think somebody said that before. I think, wonder where that money is going. Right. Brianne, you said this is shocking. It is. Okay. Honor, you dropped in the chat. Coastal Community Foundation, Zucker, has a privatization advocacy policy, and Coastal is funding the Post and Courier education news. And that's the other thing too. So it's not just like, hey, we're taking donations and Coastal is financing this. Coastal is putting money into this. Right? Don't think Girl Scouts, don't think just like, oh, nonprofit. Nah, y'all, this is part of the problem. This is part of the problem. Coastal has a privatization advocacy policy, and Coastal is funding the Post and Courier Education News Division. That's a big conflict. That's a huge conflict. Aaron, Aaron Lingo, you said this is how they indoctrinate new teachers. Come on, let me. Aaron, that is exactly how they indoctrinate new teachers, especially if they're coming through their pipeline and coming and being endorsed by Coalition for Kids, right? All intentional to keep South Carolina undereducated. Yep. And pliable. Yep. Undereducated and pliable. Yep. Joni, you said if I had to sit my pregnant ass down and take that long test, they should too, right? Okay, come on. I know. I wish Q was here. She would talk about this too. Not to mention it's expensive. Oh, is it? It's cost prohibitive? Thank you for that first time chat, Aaron. I really appreciate it. All right. This is super frightening. Yeah, did you drop something in the chat? Let me see. Oh no, you dropped the same. Yeah, Jinx. Wait, no, this is different. Or is it? Oh, okay. So this is this is different from the white paper. It's the same graphic of the black kid, but it's different. Let me blow this up a little bit so we can read this. This is all propaganda. All right, public schools of innovation, what they are not, and how they can promote equity in South Carolina education. Okay, according to our civic engagement agenda findings, more than 40%, this is all propaganda, more than 40%, some of these stats are real, more than 40% of the residents of South Carolina over the age of 25 have a high school diploma or less. All right, this level of education is linked to how low earnings, right, so, okay, linked to low earnings and risk of poverty. Okay. So this is the policy agenda. So if Coastal has a policy agenda, right? And if their policy is being lifted up, if their policy is being championed and lifted up by Ben Navarro, right? The school, because this is a Coastal post. This is from the Coastal Community Foundation's Facebook page. This was a picture from their post. If Navarro is one of the people that are helping to architect this policy, what makes you think that certain editorial decisions at the Post and Courier are not being influenced? And especially if Coastal is funding the education lab in this series. Thank you, D, for the link. I really appreciate the help. Yeah. Oh, you were there. You freaking know. I bet. Aaron, you said their strategies for classroom management is rooted in white supremacy. Control, control, control. Hello, that is
Now listen, that's called motherfucking bars.
Yep, bars. All right, so let's get back over to. Well, no. This is what I also want to look into. Because I know I'm going all over the place. I know people came in and probably wanted the smoke throwing, the flame throwing. I'm just trying to, it's really intricate, this web. I also want to take a closer look. Now, this is from 2009. And we're going to keep talking about Navarro and education, but I want to also like interrogate power too, right? So we know that legacy media is on the ropes. This is why I'm here in this space. That's why I'm trying to create dynamic media. That's why I'm trying to engage you all and teach some kind of lessons in media literacy. That's pretty much why I'm doing what I do and how I do it, right? So knowing that media is on the ropes, it's been really curious. I've been really interested in watching folks, watching papers scramble to remain financially solvent, if that makes sense. Some of it is out of necessity, but some of the moves is curious as hell. So this is back in 2009, right? The Post and Courier, silent on land holdings. Somebody else put me up on this before, but I wanted to read from this. Two stories on issues in the Upper King Street community in last week's Post and Courier failed to mention the large land holdings and development prospects of the paper's parent company. It draws fresh attention to the Post and Courier's unique position of chronicling development in an area while also serving as one of Upper King's largest property owners. This, I don't care what they just sold, they still got property, y'all, that y'all don't even know they own, the Post and Courier. This factors in prominently in how they print their news, okay? All right? I'm saying this is from 2009, but a lot of this is still relevant. Keep me honest, if somebody wants to update this, they can. They can. And I got you in the chat. I got you. All right, so it says, let me just read that again. This is back from 2009, the city paper. Two stories on issues in the Upper King Street community last week's Post and Courier failed to mention large land holdings and development prospects of the paper's parent company. It draws fresh attention to the Post and Courier's unique position of chronicling development, like they're chronicling education, while also undermining public education, right? Chronicling development in the area while also serving as one of the Upper King's largest property owners. I'm surprised they didn't disclose that. Maybe they've gone on. Maybe the more recent reporting has rectified that. Hopefully it has. On May 25th, this is 2009. On May 25th, the paper ran an article on the dissolving development market in the area that included updates on 6 high-profile projects. This is so old. This is crazy. And on the scene interview with Charleston Mayor Joe Riley. The story included comments from as many of the region's developers as possible, except for one, the Post and Courier. The Post and Courier is a developer, y'all. West Edge, Post and Courier. Like I'm telling you, the nonprofit industrial complex is so fucking. It's so. What's the word for like getting into everything? What's the word for like getting in the bloodstream? I'm looking for that word because they are embedded in like. It looks, oh, this is just news. No, it's not just a newspaper. They're developers, right? Right. In late 2016, you know, the parent company of Post and Courier is the Evening Post Publishing. That's how it is publicly, right? The parent company. In 2006, Evening Post Publishing, the parent company of the Post and Courier, announced that it was getting into the real estate business, specifically with 12 largely undeveloped acres the local media giant owns around King Street's office, right? All right. So this is President and CEO Pierre Manigault. This is so old. President and CEO Pierre Manigault later told the city paper that the Evening Post got into real estate business out of necessity, right? They'll frame it as such. Our holdings on the peninsula came to be through some 50 years of randomly buying properties adjacent to the newspaper offices as they became available, he said back in 2007. A month earlier, the Post and Courier ran an article titled Evening Post Weighs Land Use Possibilities, which included much speculation from the neighbors and city planners with no shortage of expectations. Neighboring developer Jamie Price said the Post and Courier site could be the crowning jewel of Upper King. Well, we know that kind of changed drastically. Let me go over to the chat. Y'all, this is all connected. It's all connected. Let me just keep going though. Over here, let's just go. Yeah. I'm going to read some other comments. about the education piece. It says, it was a question here. Is there any legal requirement for the Post and Courier to be transparent about community funded education? I think we need more reporting. If there were more reporting and reporters asking these questions, and I've seen pretty much like, not always, I think City Paper will definitely do it, but I've seen other reporters not necessarily want to take on each other. I don't know if that's something that maybe I got that wrong, but it feels like there's like a truce, like what we won't air your dirty laundry, don't air ours. But I feel like if there were more independent publications, like how the Chronicle used to write, I feel like you could ask those questions, Honor, about that lack of transparency, for sure, right? Joy, you said something earlier in the chat here on Twitch. You said that that's the shit of it. It could actually help, but the billionaires in charge seem more interested in parading black children for optics, than helping the kids who they are failing. Yep. All right, so El J, you just dropped in infiltrated. That was a good word, Aaron. Thank you. El J, you just dropped in the chat. So when PNC publishes pieces in real estate development, right, where there's conflict, right, where there's absolutely, and we've seen that. We've seen the local historians go to the Washington Post and write about how, hey, their real estate reporting is really off, especially when it comes to plantations, right? But their real estate reporting, which takes up a lot of the Sunday paper, I will say that as a person who has bought a cup, who reads or purchases the Sunday edition of the Post and Courier, the real estate section, y'all know that's what most people probably read it for. The real estate section is very robust, and I think that's all intentional. Why am I bringing this up? I wanted to talk about, you said, Mika, you wanted to talk about Ben Navarro, in the press. Ben Navarro in the media, right? Hold on. I got so much open. Here we go. Right? Why am I bringing this up? It's because I really need y'all to, and I did include here on this graphic, I did include the education lab little thumbnail situation here. This is important because we need to be very vigilant as to where our news is coming from, and we need to be and it's okay to be cynical, it's okay to be skeptical. I actually prefer that we become more curious, right? That we move with a spirit of curiosity and wanting to know the truth of things. I know that truths are oftentimes inconvenient. I know that, and it puts us in a position to make really difficult decisions about where we want to work, who we want to align ourselves with, who do we want to vote for. But all of these decisions that we make as a collective, as a community, are complicated. Voting for city council, you do have to weigh pros and cons. You do have to vote for somebody that you might not like, but that you hope that you can make better, right? If they're accessible and open to feedback and critique. But like all of the decisions we make, y'all, they should require some critical thinking, especially when it comes to where we send our kids to school, when it comes to our paper, when it comes to the lack of independent resources, independent news resources here. We have to interrogate that. And I'm watching closely as Ben Navarro pretty much solidifies his public persona as philanthropist, and no one's talking about the Wall Street Journal piece. No one's talking about that Wall Street Journal piece where, they cite him for being one of, if not the most aggressive debt collectors during the pandemic, needlessly relentless, and even going after people's money who he wasn't even entitled to, who didn't even owe the money anymore, right? When you look at Ben Navarro and you only see philanthropists and you don't see his moves to privatize schools, when you don't look at Anita Zucker and her work with Trident and Cradle to Career, and you don't see how this is all connected, I know it's hard, I know it's cumbersome, but you have to look at these things through some sort of critical lens. Maybe you make a number of simple decisions when you wake up in the morning. Maybe you do. Maybe, what car you're going to drive, what shirt you're going to wear, what you're going to eat. I don't know. Take comfort in the fact that there's still simple decisions out here. But also I really do want to train people train that muscle in us all to where we reflexively ask questions. Education lab. This sounds amazing. Who's funding it? If Post and Courier is asking you to fund Uncovered series, which is a dope series. Shout out to Avery Wilkes, and the other reporters. Steve Garrison's a great reporter. Like, there's a bunch of great reporters there. But when the Post and Courier is trying to crowd fund all these initiatives, and they're unloading properties, and there's a mass exodus, but yet the Innovation Lab is getting renewed interest and picking up in the content creation, you got to really start asking the question, where is this money coming from? Who's behind this? Who's pulling the strings, right? Okay, let me see this link. All right, let's see. Thank you. I really appreciate y'all holding me down. Thank you. I didn't want it. It's a private group. Can anybody join? I should just create a fake Facebook account and just let's see if there's people. Okay, these are the moderators. Anyone can join. I don't even want to try it. They're gonna say. I think they're gonna be like it's really benign. 564 members. It says this group by the Post and Courier is a place for discussion in South Carolina South Carolina education. Everyone is welcome to be a part of the conversation here. Okay, so I'll join it. I'll put a request in. Okay. All right, everyone's a part of the conversation here. Oh, that's it. Am I in? Oh, I'm in. Oh, a lot of my friends are in here. Chilling. Uh-huh. They're also using this group to promote their articles too. I hope this space does welcome some pushback, and I hope that they also offer some transparency around the funding of the Education Lab right here. Like, I really do. Yeah, I really do. Look at Lizette. Okay. So yeah, I think it's just important, y'all. Please don't sleep on this. The news we read, especially if you read any education news, college, read any education news from college to K through 12 from the Post and Courier. Please read it with a healthy level of skepticism. Get the broad strokes, and then try to ask questions. And look, this is the underrated hack, right? No, I think okay. This is an underrated hack. Reach out to the reporter who wrote the story. Reach out. If you're not me, because when I call now, they like, oh, she about to out us on Facebook, or she about to out us on Twitch. Make sure you reach out to the reporter. Ask them questions. Email them. Ask them questions. Call the number. Call the news desk. Right? That's something I really want you to start doing too. We always say call your elected official. Call your newspaper. It's many times I call the Post and Courier while I'm driving on 26 or something like that. I'm going to North Carolina, or I'm going to Georgia, or wherever I'm going, and I'll call and leave a comment, or I'll comment about the certain editorial decisions. Let them know it's a two-way street. Just like how on Twitch I'm making it a two-way street. You can help keep me honest. You can help keep my arguments sound by providing me with links and other supplemental materials. You know it's a two-way street here. That's how your paper should be. To an extent, your paper should be that way as well. You should have more influence over the news and education than the editorial board, and then billionaire debt collectors and billionaire Qatari lobbyists. You should have more control. You should have more influence, more say, more input. What you have to say should weigh more heavily than them. It doesn't, but it should. And so please call the newspaper. Call the newspaper. Ask them questions. Call the reporters behind the stories. Hey, who's funding the Education Lab? Is Ben Navarro a part of this? Is he funding this explicitly? Did he, are there any financial disclosures? Did the Post and Courier discover any financial disclosure between Ben Navarro and CCF for express use for the Education Lab? Has the Post and Courier reported recently on Ben Navarro's close proximity to Coalition for Kids and CCF's Coalition for Kids proximity? What is School of Innovation? Like, make the paper answer these questions. It's a two-way street. And just like democracy, just like any of these other pillars of our government, of our communities, you should have access to it. You should have access to people who write and report on your news. But please make sure you interrogate the way power flows here in Charleston, specifically in our print media. And don't believe the hype. That's what I would tell you. Don't believe the hype, right? It's all PR. He's not a philanthropist. He's a debt collector, right? She's not just some tech magnate. You know, she over there, you know, her son-in-law and her are lobbying in Qatar, bringing money, bringing millions here and slapping her name on a school that's funded with Qataris who are trying to buy influence here. And I'm not trying to scare, I'm not being jingoistic or xenophobic or anything like that. I'm trying to tell you that there's outside interests who have an agenda, and there are people willing to sell credibility, right? Leverage their own credibility for a price to these people who have endless flows of cash, which is, you know, all these oil rich nations, right? The Emirates and Qatar and all that other stuff. Yeah, you gotta take a look at it. And remember, now Zucker owns a sports team too. That sports team billionaire media thing is real. She still own the hockey team? It must be a way for them to sink their money. It has to be a way for them to sink their money. Yeah, I don't know. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna leave it there. Appreciate y'all rocking with me. Hopefully y'all got what y'all came for. I hope so. This was went a little more rockier than I thought. I thought I was more prepared, but I appreciate y'all for holding me down with the supplemental materials. Please watch the connection between Navarro, Zucker, and the Post and Courier and these education labs. Watch how many times Education Lab pops up at Trident roundtables, panel discussions. No shade to any of the teachers or educators who really give a fuck. No shade to y'all who are just out here trying to educate kids and be radical disruptors within the education system. But a thing is a thing, and the nonprofit industrial complex, unfortunately, is wreaking havoc on our public school system and our billionaires and millionaires here too, who are invested in that because there's so much money in schools, so much money. Thank you. I appreciate you, El Cool J. Thank you all. Brienne, you said thank you. I hope so. I was kind of all over the place. Yeah. Everyone always texts me in the morning. It's so funny. All right, I'm going to leave it there, y'all. Take care of yourselves, okay? Thank you so much. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. And I'll see you tomorrow. Don't know what I'm talking about tomorrow, though. I don't. I thought I did, but I don't. All right. Bye.